Hello, everyone. Welcome to another GoDaddy Pro EMEA Meetup. Today is July 11th, 2022, and today we have a special occasion. First of all, we have Laura Sacco with us. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hello, fine, and excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, this is awesome. We're so happy to have you around. Predrag, welcome to our meetup as well.
Hi, everyone.
This is amazing to have you. I'm very happy to have you as a panelist today because our topic today is contribution, and where better to start than perhaps with the translation and contribution to WordPress. So, without further ado, Laura, I have met you in 2019, I believe, first time. And
Maybe.
then, yes, I remember. And then later on, I think that was the first time I was contributing in my life. And because I'm not a tech person, I couldn't go to a core or any other plugins or themes. So I went to translation to the polyglot section. And this is where I saw you and a number of other people. So can you please tell me a little bit about how you ended up in WordPress and why polyglots?
Yeah. Basically, in 2015, I need to change my life. I lose my work, my job, and so I was searching for something new. I used to be a social worker, but I wanted to find a new field how to work, when to work, where to work. So I I read in a board, in a whiteboard in a co-working space in Turin that there will be that was a WordPress meetup in Turin, and I knew WordPress because I use for my job, and so I decided to attend it to the my first meetup. I think it was September 2015, and there I met Francesca Marano, that at the time she led the WordPress meetup in Turin, and she talked about how to contribute in WordPress. I'm not a technical person too. I don't know anything about core. Okay, nowadays something more, but at the time absolutely nothing. And Francesca told me, no, not a problem. You don't think about that. You can't contribute to WordPress in Polyglot team. You know WordPress, you know Italian, and you know something of English. So I started to contribute in translating in Polyglot teams, and I learned a lot. And I translated everything, I think. And in a few months, I became Italian GT because the Italian community was rebuilt in that days, and I contribute to rebuild the Polyglots team. And so is that that is all the things.
But you stayed. I mean, Predrag, where was your when you contributed first time to WordPress? What was that?
Sorry, mute. Actually, it was not in translation. It was in WordPress forum, helping people with problems with WordPress installation and usually the infamous white screen of death. So yes, ManageWP had a policy when I joined. First week of training after you join, you spend the entire week on WordPress org, helping people install WordPress, replying in the forum, in the threads, and that's where I started. And it's actually a great way to engage with the community, because when I was starting, I asked some of the questions there and got really helpful replies. So, and later on, I started translating some strings because it doesn't take too much of your time, but it does make a contribution, so it is a good place to start.
Nice, nice. So Laura, tell us please, what how translation contributes to WordPress? Is it just, I mean, what's the story behind? And also if translations are also part of the accessibility. So I know that you prepared a little bit of a presentation for us so people can understand it much better. So maybe actually I could ask you if you can show us your presentation.
Sorry, do you want that I show the presentation now?
Well, you might want
No,
to,
no, or after, before
maybe,
contributor. Could be.
it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind, as you wish. We can also continue talking and then we show the presentation later. But I thought that maybe some people would not be able to join us all the way throughout the event, so maybe we can just, give them a bit of a hint. But in the meantime, could you tell us, when did you join Polyglots? And can you tell us more about this team? Because there are many, how many teams there are in WordPress that contribute? More than 20?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but there are a lot.
A
Because
lot, yeah.
a lot, yes, we have the most famous, I think, are support, as Predrag said, and the polyglots that are polyglots. I think that is most worldwide diffuse because it's easy to contribute to polyglot to translation. Is the I call it a sort of door, the open door on the WordPress world. Because you don't know, you don't need to know the core and the code and stuff like that. So it's the most, I think, the most different team from other, because we have developers but also marketing person, professional translator, and so on. Simply people that use WordPress. Then I think a great team nowadays is documentation, is a very important team, and they are working a lot to make to create documentation about how to use WordPress in general. Then there is the team community, the team, the plugin team, the core team, of course, that is the very active and most important, I think, team, because without them, we don't have WordPress, I think. And CLI, double P CLI team, uh,
Tons.
marketing team,
Correct.
learning team. That is very interesting because they create template for teaching WordPress, and I don't know what I
So basically,
forgot.
there is for any type of skill, if
Yeah,
any one of you would actually fit any
exactly.
of these things. And it's not the purpose to contribute to WordPress to be in all teams, but
No.
actually just to give a contribution where you can. And those are not being counted in sense of if you did more or less. It's just the good intent behind is actually the contribution. Is there, I mean, you've been contributing like for a number of years. How do you feel now if you would go to a WordCamp and then, yes, Alejandro is saying accessibility team is the newest one. How would you feel if you come
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
WordCamp and there is no contributor there? I don't think it would be nice. I think for me, the best part of a
Yeah.
WordCamp is the contributor there.
Yes, for me too. Contributor Day is a very, very interesting part of WordPress because you are active during Contributor Day, not only receive passively, no? Uh, and um, and during Contributor Day, you also join a table uh, where you don't have any skill. For example, accessibility is really a great team and a very interesting to attend during a contributor day.
I agree. Peja, what's your favorite theme? I mean, what was the recent favorite theme that you contributed to?
Favorite team, definitely Polyglots. Yes, because I actually understand a couple of like a bit Italian, bit Spanish, French, like European languages, and it's always nice to, like, if you want to practice a language, you install localized WordPress and then test your knowledge of both WordPress and language.
If there is anyone here among all of you who's contributing to different teams, I see that Olga is mentioning here in the chat. Hi, Olga, how are you? Support. And then Alejandro is saying accessibility. If you're already contributing to any other of these teams, please let us know, because then it would help us actually to identify if we need any information, whom to call, and you could be the recent contact that we got. So it would be really nice. And I don't know if many of you are on WordPress or make that WordPress Slack. There is a channel, and very often I see Laura responding in that channel as well. And and the type of requests there are kind of like something very interesting. Plugin makers. I don't know if you're part of this Slack, so I'm just trying to actually depict what's going on there. So sometimes the plugin developers or owners or whoever marketing people, they're asking people in that channel to help them translate their product. So how does this work? I mean, is this already known, Laura, that if you create something, a solution in WordPress, you come to Polyglot Slack and then you find a solution how to translate it?
Um, Actually, Slack channel is not for asking question about your own problem. I mean, if you have a problem with, for example, installation, you need to ask at the support forum. But Slack is an awesome tool to connect everyone, every people contributing at WordPress. So we discuss in Polyglot, usually we discuss about how our, and also in support channel, how our community goes, if we have some issues in our community, how to engage people, or in the support channel, they discuss about problem with tickets, or how to manage some tickets, some troll, for example, and or spam and so on. In every channel, I think we have almost a meeting at a week, in a week. In Polyglot, we have two meeting, one for people in the east part of the world and one in the Europe-centric world, more or less. So we cover all the time zone in the world. And usually we discuss several topics, okay, about stats or about release. For example, if I think in the Learn project, we had some translation issue because in every language, some English string are pretty cryptic. And so we asked, for example, how we can translate social learning. That is clear in English, but in Italian is not clear at all. And so thing like that. Often we also have some PT requests, but PT request in the slide, then I'll explain what PT is. And PT's request need to be right in make. So in the Rosetta site, in the block part of the polyglots, Rosetta site.
Many people will not know what Rosetta site is, so I'm very
Yeah. I'll explain. I'll explain.
yes. So in case anyone, please don't people don't get afraid of this.
No.
We might be mentioning some terms, but when you actually see what it is, you will love it. My first experience with translation was I actually organized the translation day in our office in
Yeah.
2019. And I wasn't sure what I was doing, but then I had help from my colleagues who were also part of the organization team. So it was like very easy for me. But then when I understood what we actually did and how the approval of string goes, and that there is a certain glossary that we can also use, and uh, in, there are so many languages that WordPress is translating.
205
There
to
are
be
so many
precise.
languages. 200.
Yeah.
Well, I could have made a Kahoot game here with
Yeah.
questions. Maybe next time. So 205 languages.
Yeah, I think that more than 50% of WordPress, of all WordPress sites are localized in a different language than English.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm. Just a question for you, since you speak two languages, and somehow I feel that people who speak only English language are actually, they cannot feel the fun that we have. But I wanted to ask you, like, how many languages you are able to translate to when it comes to plugin
M-
translation? Because you already
Me?
know what, yes,
No, I speak only Italian
and English, and
and
English.
English, a little English. And okay, I understand English, written English pretty well. Not speak so well, but I'm speak only Italian.
All right, and that means
And basically the translation is divided for locals. So if you have permission to accept translation in a locals, it doesn't mean that you can accept translation for other languages. You need to have permission for that. So I cannot approve Serbian, French, German, nothing else but Italian.
I wanted to ask you, there's a number of people that I spoke to when I said, why don't you come and contribute to WordPress by translating? They said, I'm afraid my translation is not good enough and that I will make a mess somewhere else. So how do you discourage people actually from thinking that they might do something wrong instead that there is a checking part as well?
Um, Basically in polyglot it's hard to make mess because you can suggest if you are at the basic level, so if you are a translator or editor, so anyone that has an account on wordpress.org can translate, okay, and they can translate as they want, but they need to someone to approve their translation. So who approve has the responsibility for the good translation, okay? So you don't have you don't need to be afraid to make any error or mess and something like that. In Italy, we have a special program that we called mentoring. Basically, if you want to translate a lot and you want to approve your translations, we have this mentoring program where expert people teach you, follow you in your translations and underline your mistakes if you done if you do some mistake. And when you are ready, we nominate you PTE, and in this way you can approve your own strings or your own translations in a search project.
Nice. Speaking of projects, Alejandro, would you mind telling us also what are translations important for development and for the visibility of a plugin? How much translations are actually important?
They have two phases. So we have the backend phase and the front end one, right? The front end one is for the users that are going to visit a website in this case, and the backend for the one who's going to be handling and managing it. So I work in WPML, so I see a lot of different websites in so many languages, which is actually quite fun. Sometimes some look like alien to me, like I don't know, like Hebrew, because they are all in another direction. They are written in different ways. They have different layouts, but it's actually quite nice to see how they all work, because there might be a person that doesn't really understand English. They might doesn't even speak English. And I'm talking about English as like, let's say, universal language, the one that we usually use to communicate abroad. So they don't use it, but they actually work abroad. And they actually need English. So it's very interesting to see these websites where they are in a language in admin, they have, nowhere, nothing in English. And some in the front end, a totally different language, totally different layouts. I'm using the Hebrew language because they use different layouts, different ways of seeing things. So even in the structural part, I must say that I admire whoever came up with the idea of coding how to change things and how to look like right to left and left to right, because it's so difficult to do that. And that applies also to theme authors, because it's very difficult to have them compatible with all that. At the same time, it's actually quite nice to see how people start making their companies and their content global. How it's actually quite interesting when I see I'm a Spanish native, but I also speak Italian and English. So I don't know why, but even 4 years after I've been working in WPML and accessing sites, it's pretty nice when I see a website in, I don't know, Japanese, for example, from Japanese people working in Spanish or in Italian or in English. I get excited because I kind of understand it. I say, oh, look at that. I understand what it says. And when the translations are super accurate too, I say, wow, it's pretty nice how, they have no idea what it says, but they care so much about their products that they somehow manage to find the right people that are going to translate that as if there were their own companies. It's super difficult, as Laura mentioned. Sometimes it's kind of critical, some translations, because some things that are quite easily explained in English are super difficult, if not impossible, to explain in other languages. And sometimes, the machine translations, they exist and they are good to start with because they make your life so easier and faster. But then you need a human and a translator, somebody that actually, you don't need to be a translator as a trade. You just need to have lived and understand a language. And if you do that, then you can check the website, check, okay, this sounds weird. So even if it's technically or grammatically correct, it might not express what you want to say. And, that is what I really love the most about let's say, living in this moment where globalization has basically arrived everywhere. And thanks to migration, people mixing cultures, I just want to go live somewhere else. Like in my case, I come from another continent, another culture, totally different. I came here to Italy and I'm like, okay, I like it now. And it's pretty nice to say, okay, now I understand the Italian part, I understand the Spanish part. Hopefully I understand the English part. I haven't lived anywhere where English is spoken natively. Hopefully that's going to be the next step. But it's pretty nice when I can say, okay, I can help in one place or in another one, and I'm pretty sure that I can do a good job. Trying not to mess up, because everybody messes up, but trying always to be careful enough to not mess up. But while before this talk, I actually got to investigate a little bit, And I found out that there are over 7,000 languages in this world. I was like, what? I thought there were like 200 at most. And those 7,000 languages, because in some countries, and I actually found out that some that I thought were dialects in here in Italy, they are actually recognized as languages, and with good reason, because if I listen to somebody else talking, I know, Milanese or the ones from or Veneto, I think it's, I don't know how you say that in English, but I have no idea what they're saying. I have totally no idea. And when I came here to Italy, I learned Italian, I learned Sicilian because I first arrived there. I now know Foggian, which is the one in my country, in my city, sorry. I learned Neapolitan. I learned a little bit of Milanese because of friends over there. And turns out that, you know, I can kind of say, oh yeah, I speak more than 3 languages. It's pretty cool, even though I know that a lot of people are going to say, okay, I have no idea how you speak that, but it's okay. When I went to Spain, I also learned Catalan, because it's quite similar to Spanish, but at the same time, not so much. It's weird. But you know, these things are actually what makes WordPress in this case pretty nice, because you actually have the possibility to access those languages without, you know, having to learn another language. That's actually what I like the most about WordPress. When I entered WordPress in the WordPress world in 2007, the translations were there. They weren't really that good, in the sense that maybe the context was missing, and that was not the fault of a translator. That was just the fault of, you know, tools being built. They didn't have like this small hint that now we have that helps so much. So things were weirdly translated. There are still a few things over there, but you know, things have greatly improved, and it's pretty nice to see somebody that, you know, do not understand English still able to open WordPress, install it, use it, even without having, you know, a little bit of English knowledge anywhere. That's what I find the best, because WordPress was born as a blog. So it was born to share information. And now you can actually freely share that information without you having those technical difficulties that you could have before. WordPress for me has always been super easy to install. When I started, I was a little bit on the tech side, but I didn't really know anything about the web development part. Now I'm kind of like a programmer, so I kind of understand. I'm a little bit more on the developer level, but all to me, in my case, it all started with WordPress. And it was actually quite nice when I installed WordPress and it was already in Spanish. I didn't even do that. It was just there. It was quite nice because it wasn't just Spanish, it was the Venezuelan Spanish. And I was like, what? What?
Also Mexican and a lot
No,
of
it was actually the Venezuelan one. It had even the locale and everything. I was super surprised because some translator in Venezuela, we have the small lingo, and everybody that translate everything in Venezuelan, they start to add this little lingo and not make it so neutral, but only just to let you know, I'm Venezuelan and I translated that. So it was actually very nice to see these small things, in there. So, to be honest, one of the reasons also why I work at a multilingual company was exactly because of that. I really loved it. And in fact, when I'm really lucky to work there. It was the only place where I applied after working here in Italy. And the main reason was exactly because I used to be one of the users that had, I wanted to translate my content in different languages. When I first arrived here in Italy, I had a blog and I wanted to translate that to help people that spoke Spanish get into the Italian, let's say bureaucracy about getting visas and everything else, which is quite complicated. And there wasn't a lot of information. So I basically tried to create my blog, and then I ended up giving all my content to companies that were actually maintaining it. But it was actually quite nice to have, the tools to do that, and also the means in an easy way and not so expensive way to do that. So it's all thanks to WordPress from the beginning until where I am right now.
Amazing, seriously. It's such a pleasure to have a job that you like, and then by each
Yeah.
step of your actions and whatever you do at work, it's helping someone else. So without further ado, in sense of we don't want to prevent anyone of us not to translate as much as possible. I will close this recording part, and we will move to the private part where we will all remind ourselves. Actually, Laura will kindly remind us what translation is and how great it makes us. And then we will continue translating. Thank you everyone for watching this show. Next time, I hope you will be with us. If you are watching the recording, that means that you didn't have a time to join us, and then you maybe lost an opportunity to translate a thing that will change the life to someone in WordPress, right? So I hope to see you next time. And lots of regards from GoDaddy Pro EMEA Meetup. And see you.
See you.